No, so it's my pleasure to be here and to welcome you all. This is a special panel and we'll do things differently. So we'll start, we'll invite our chief guest. We have 3 dots, wonderful dots who are here with us today. And I'll invite them to be on the stage with me. Then we'll have all our children actually introduce the dots and ask a specific question. They have actually questions for you that they want answered. So I'll give them the first opportunity. We'll have the kids. Sorry, yeah. Okay, and we'll have the kids introduce, and then hopefully I can match their levels, and we'll have a nice conversation about career choices, what it means to pursue excellence, and how do you build aspirations for the next generation. So I hope you find it all engaging, and if nothing, we have Aditi to help us laugh. So with that, I'll invite Dr. Tessie Thomas on stage, Mansi Joshi, and Aditi Mittal. Please do join me. So now I invite my favorite little munchkin, Tamara Nambia, to give an introduction of Dr. Tessie Thomas.
I would like to read a paragraph about Dr. Tessie Thomas from the book. Tessie was inspired by her mother, who asked her 6 children to show the world their true potential. Her mentor and role model, Dr. Kalam, who later on became the President of India, placed her in the Agni missile program. Dr. Tessie Thomas, I have a question for you. Science has many subjects. Most people only think about becoming an engineer or a doctor. How did you choose to become a scientist?
Love you. And it's like any other child. I too chose school subject science as my favorite subject, science and mathematics, which used to give me fascination in doing, solving the problems. And of course, as a school child, I used to want to be an engineer. So even scientists are not mere real scientists in the sense we are applied science we do. So we are basically DRDO looks for more than 80% engineering application oriented and rest pure science, the basic science. So that's where the feeling of being an engineer, and then by doing the subjects like radar engineering and all, which was almost talking about military application. I was fortunate that DRDO advertised for 10 students for doing the guided missiles course in MTech. So I got selected as one of the 10 students who got to that for doing MTech in guided missiles. There I did the course and came to a lab at DRDL at Hyderabad, where Dr. Kalam was there as the director. So I was put into the Agni program from very beginning, and then there I went into the research of that field, and there I am.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mansi Joshi is a fierce badminton player who won a gold medal at the Para Badminton World Championships. I really look up to Mansi because I've been playing badminton for the past 7 years and I want to play like her. Despite her challenges, she's been headstrong. Mansi started playing badminton from a very young age, but unfortunately she got into an accident and lost her leg. So Mansi, my question for you is, I play matches, and if I lose, then I get very disheartened and I start to question my abilities. So how do you deal with such a disappointment?
I feel losing and winning are just a part of a game. So if it depends on your opponents also, right? So if your opponent has worked very hard, it's their day and it's okay. So everybody has their own day. So I think dealing with a loss is as we should accept it as we accept winning.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Aditi, I have a question for you. When I tell everyone a joke, they start laughing at me. When you tell jokes to others, do you feel they laugh at you in a way that they don't like the joke or they like it?
Tamara, this is an incredibly deep question. Okay, we're like talking Socrates here. I realized, and especially as a function of the job, any kind of laughter is okay. If you want to laugh with me, at me, go ahead, as long as there's laughter. That is the desired result. And as Mansi said, it's failure. If you haven't laughed if you haven't laughed with me but laughed at me, on some level it's a failure of me to make you laugh with me, and that's okay too. I think that's one of the greatest things about this job is no matter what the result, there's laughter in the end.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Tamara. Tamara, can I have the mic, please? Thank you. Hannah and Tamara for lovely introductions. Now the challenge for me is they've stolen the thunder of the panel discussion, and I have to match what they have questioned. But one thing, all three of us are very passionate, and we are mothers of daughters. And one of the things that we really admire about all three of you are your uncommon career choice, right? And your journey extraordinaire. And I think this is something that I want to foster through our discussion is how do we get our children to be risk takers and to be able to choose something that is different, right? Be different is one of the biggest mottos of this company that we like. And so through this conversation, I want to, hopefully you'll share your experiences with the audience, the younger generation, as well as the parents who can encourage their children to be different. And in other words, you're batting for your vocation. So you have to convince the audience that, hey, your vocation is the best vocation. The rules of the games are that we love difference of opinions. We want diverse opinions. And, the war, there's no, all is fair in war, right? So don't hold back. Please share your thoughts and opinions. So the first thing that I'd like to begin with is, we talk about science, and we have science here, we have performing arts, and we have got sports. And when we think about, right, what are the skills that are required to excel in science versus sports versus performing arts? And there's this whole concept of right brain thinking and left brain thinking. And the idea is the left brain is what is more towards science, where when you're thinking about logic, you're thinking about numerical skills, analytical skills, the left brain gets activated, versus when you're thinking about creativity, you're thinking about intuition.
Then no brain is required.
Visualization. Exactly. I'd save that for politics, but and maybe sports is a combination of both. So my question to all of you, and maybe you can take turns to answer, is that what is the trait that is required to be successful, to pursue this road of excellence in your own careers? What is it that if kids want to take your road and pursue that journey, what is it that they require to pursue excellence? And maybe
I feel only you have to be determined. The education around you is there to give you knowledge. And what you need is that the final aim to achieve something. If you are determined and committed, you are there as a winner. And every of these steps starts from your own home. Like Ms. Rima Gupta mentioned, that we all had daughters. So we thought about them. The book also is for them. That's a great thing to think about. Because if our parents think about our own children, then the first step you already got, the initiation from the home, the support we got, and then you are there to do your part of learning, and you really achieve. There's no difference like a scientist or an engineer or an artist. every field has its own shining, and then you have to be determined to do something great for this country. That's all.
But Dr. Thomas, I did want to add to that. We had a big argument yesterday, and the idea was that we were talking about rigor, right? And to achieve excellence, you need rigor. And the question is, do you feel that in science, there's more rigor required, and that's why less kids go there, or less parents push the kids to that ultimate? And
now, if you feel that today I have been recognized as a scientist, as an Indian scientist, I think what we need is the inner strength in oneself. The trigger has to come from you only, and the children has to feel that science as a subject is as easy as history. So historians feel that they have learned something and they made the mark to this country. Similar is science. We need to learn, that's all. And knowing and not knowing is only the question of reading. So every field has its own capability to achieve and excel. And the inner feeling that one has to be determined to learn, that's only what I find. And if I can contribute to this extent to this country, I'm sure the younger generation with a lot of knowledge around us, and whatever right knowledge you need, you can pick it up from your fingertips. And the media is so great, and choose the right knowledge and become great innovators.
thank you. So Mansi, would you want to add from a sports perspective? I know the rigor there is definitely there. There's lots and lots of hours of training. Could you talk a little bit from your experience and what trait helped you to come so far?
According to me, like as ma'am said, it's determination. I'll say yes, determination and persistence to keep on doing it every day till your body tells you to give up. Still doing that actually takes you one step forward, just one step forward, and then again keep on doing it till you reach the next step. So keeping on changing the path or creating new steps and then persisting to do it. I'll tell you, like I am also an engineer and sports was not a thing that I got into. I didn't choose it, it just happened. The skills that I learned early in my childhood, I used to go for badminton coaching and training, just like how everybody else, I'm sure most parents want their child to have multiple, they need to have different experiences, so they put them in arts, music and sports. My parents did the same thing with me. I used to go to art classes, dance classes, I used to go for singing classes, and of course badminton. And badminton was one sport that I loved the most.
Nancy, can I just tell my daughter Sahana, see, I'm not that bad.
Every parent does that. And yes, my parents were just the same. So yeah, but the skills that I learned early in the childhood, I never knew that they were going to take me to this stage. I used to go for coaching and training. I used to play for my school, college, for my corporate later on. And one day I met with an accident and I started using sports for my own rehab. My brother, and just to get out of the home, and later on just to, because I had a desk job, I wanted to have, I had a sedentary lifestyle, I wanted to just indulge into sports and become fit. That's how I used to keep on pursuing this sport even after my injury. And one thing led to the other, I started participating and that's how I reached. So, I kept on learning things. Even I was learning how to walk, I kept on persisting. I want to learn, I want to become a better walker. I mean, I don't know if you guys understand, but for me it was, even walking was so important. I had to relearn it, and to perfect it, I took so many months. So I think we have to be very, very, and it's this thing, this persistence, sport taught me. I'm sure my parents would have just given up saying कि अरे नहीं और मेहनत करो, but the thing कि आ ही गया through sports, it actually helped me.
It's phenomenal. Thank you, Mansi.
Thank you.
So Aditi, my friend was saying that scientists actually work 12 to 16 hours a day. Sports maybe okay, 8, will give them 8. But comedians, do they really work?
As someone who's at work right now, no, You know, especially actually a job like comedy, you're on 24/7. You're on 24/7, something will happen. Also, I have not met a relative in my life who has not been like, Aditi, tu comedy karti hai? 1 second, I'll tell you a joke. I'll tell you a joke. You use it in your skit. Huh? You use it in your skit. So you're technically on 24/7. Like, again, going to parties where they're like, "Arey, you're a comedian, tell us a joke." I'm like, "You're a doctor, examine my pimple." Like, I mean, that's not exactly what I say. But these are not like social situation conversations, you know. But you kind of have to be on all the time. And I realized so much of this job is distilling the 23.5 hours of the day to that 30 minutes that you're on stage and talking to people. And so I would say your friend should become a comedian. You know, and also actually, as to your question, as to what are the couple of things that I think that I would want, you know, anybody else who's looking in the room. By the way, if you're not a child, also please, and if you're a woman, become a comedian. There are too many tragically hilarious things in our lives, especially as Indian women, that we will have to share. But I think it's persistence, just hang around, and then after a while you'll realize you're just good at it. And the second one is shamelessness, the belief that you belong there and that you deserve what you have. And then the third quality is to know when to stop answering a question.
Thank you. Just to add to that, I wonder, Dr. Thomas, what do they ask you in gatherings? No, but thank you. I think that was very enlightening, and I think I agree that there is a common thread which is about perseverance and grit, and I think that is very, very important to build. And I'll talk a little bit more about it as we will discuss a little bit more. But maybe let me start with a little bit focus on science and research, because I know here we have traditional parents, quite a lot of them. And Dr. Thomas, I wanted to share, you know, recently I had read in a newspaper that in India, although a lot of students do take science subjects, they do not aspire to be scientists. And one of the very phenomenal, so I come from an academia background, so I'll bring in some of the research insights that we have seen. So there is this Professor Raj Chetty. He's a professor of economics at Harvard University, and he has done this phenomenal study about lost Einsteins. And he talks, basically he asked a very simple question: who are the inventors in America? And to answer that question, he looked at 1.2 million patents that were filed in US. So guess what? The findings, of course, one that is not a surprising finding is that the children of top 1% of the population from income perspective are the ones who are 10 times more likely to be innovators than others. But the other more interesting, so he dug a little bit deeper, right? And he said, why is that so, right? It can't be genetic. So he looked a little bit deeper, and he found that it's not that they are, generally he also found that they are sons and daughters of inventors. But he said what is different is the exposure to research and innovation in early childhood leads to a higher propensity of children becoming innovators themselves. So I think given that context, I would like to really see, you know, DRDO is a great institute of research. Are there initiatives that DRDO is doing to expose children to this research and get them excited?
Yeah, we are already on the job. We have a DRDO website in which we publish all our research work, the areas of interest. Now, Dr. Kalam's vision also, the website Dream Come True, has been launched, and these are all platforms wherein which the children, and we reach to the school and colleges wherein which we DRDO scientists go and give lectures, where the whole set of what scientific research work has been done by DRDO. And now we are opening out to all the medias wherever we can publicize the importance of science and technology. And as a country, as Rima mentioned, it's a lot of girl students show the interest when they are in the school, then it decreases towards the college level, and further they don't take up a career. That's something which we need to encourage. It's no difficult than any other subject or area. Yes, of course, there are challenges. You need to beat these challenges. Challenges are always an opportunity to learn more. So, and DRDO is, it's again a scientific environment, and you get the whole support to be there as a scientist. So you don't have to worry about it. And I'm finding the difference that year in which 30 to 33 years when I joined, there was hardly 3% women scientists. Today, the percentage has gone to 10 to 12%. But that itself is a big boon, like people are coming out to learn more and more of science. Science is a very interesting subject, and I'm sure if I can learn, everyone else can learn. It's very simple. Thank you.
Thank you. But there are a lot of, I know, schools and teachers and representatives, I think parents also. So you'd mentioned a very interesting thing. One thing is that, you know, DRDO scientists, they are being invited. Can schools reach out and through the website and invite scientists?
Yes.
And
yes, schools can approach the DRDO labs in Hyderabad. There are more than 8 labs, DRDO labs. You can, nowadays we give, they can visit, as well as the scientists can come and give lecture to the schools. It's only you have to interact and get the people on the right place.
Sure. No, thank you so much. I'm sure your phone will be ringing very soon. So moving on, Aditi, the next one is for you. And you know, one of the big issues that every parent struggles, and I'll admit I've struggled with it too, is with building your child's self-esteem, right? And especially as kids enter teenage years, the self-esteem hinges on the approval of others. And I think social media has only made it worse. I don't know how many we, for Caterpillar Wings, have seen likes, how many people saw. I mean, it's become a little bit scary where the world is going. So you have spoken about, right, about self-esteem, building self-esteem, and I think especially being in performing arts, where your career hinges on the appreciation you get from the audience. How do you tackle criticism, and how do you not let it affect your self-esteem?
So I do let it affect my self-esteem quite a bit, and it hurts. It hurts, because whenever you write a joke and then you put it out there, I realized a joke is one of those things that's very subjective. Like if I say something and you laugh, then it's a joke. If I say something and you don't laugh, then it's a cry for help. And see that? And so it hurts, of course it hurts. And I realized one of the things that, when it comes, because this job is a lot of seeking approval. This thing of stand-up comedy is that please laugh, please like me, please appreciate what I'm saying. And it doesn't work out so well a lot. The way I deal with it is, a lot of crying. But you know what, this is one thing, and it's very sad that I realized it like only 5 years ago, is I'm not going to die. I'm not going to die if someone criticizes me. That is sort of, because sometimes you hear something and you're like, this is the end. I'm never going to get a chance to do what I love. And the moment I walk out, people are going to throw eggs at, nothing is going to happen. Nothing is going to happen. The worst case scenario is just so simple. And I mean, we live such privileged lives, so I think it's just about getting up and sort of starting all over again the next day. That's my strategy.
So what happens if you joke, as you said, no one laughs? How do you improvise? What do you do next?
I acknowledge that the joke didn't work. Then they laugh out of pity. Then they're like, poor thing, she's going to cry a lot tonight. So
but I think there's a nugget of wisdom. I think, humor, as my husband says, is serious business. And
yeah.
I think what you said is acknowledging goes a long way. Yeah. So thank you for sharing that. So Mansi, I'll now ask you, the next question is for you. And again, this goes back to my academic roots, where there is this professor from Stanford who has done a phenomenal study on growth mindset. Her name is Carol Dweck. And she talks about how important it is to teach children failures, and this is actually following up on the conversation, right, that we had earlier with the child, is the importance of teaching children how to fail and how to cope with failures. And in the growth mindset theory, they talk about that, that your ability is not fixed. it can actually, as you challenge yourself and as you learn new things, you can build on your ability, and anyone can do that. It's not like I have to come from a certain background or some certain things. Basically the idea is that it's not an innate ability, it's an ability that you can learn. And so, I'd love to hear your story about, you mentioned about relearning how to walk, right? And what is it, how did you get yourself through it? I mean, that is just mind-blowing. So please do share, because, we get hassled by small things, small failures bring us down. I think, this is a life-changing event. How do you deal with it, and how do you go beyond it? Because once you're beyond, the world opens up again. So would love to hear your story.
What I've learned in these few years is, so I met with an accident in December 2011, and it has been almost like 8 years now that I'm living a life as a disabled person. What I've learned is, it doesn't matter, this human body that we have, it's so adaptive. It can learn everything. It knows how to adapt to whichever situation, be it physically or mentally, we are put into. What we as humans, we have innovated this world to be for people who are on 2 hands and 2 legs. But we are innovators. We as humans, we can make different things happen. And I think if a cycle can be made for 2 pedals, why can't we have something for 1 pedal? Or why can't we can have hand cycle? When people who cannot cycle through the leg, we made hand cycles. And we improvised. We changed as everything was required, as it was required. I think everybody has that power to deal with any situation they are put into. Everybody. It's not like that, I am a very different person. I'm just like everybody else over here. It's just that the situation that I was put into, I also earned strength as per the situation, my friends, my family, and if I have come to any stage in my life, or whoever is at whichever stage in the life they are currently in, I think it's because of the support they have from the surroundings, maybe from the family, from their friends, from their peers, from their colleagues, or from anyone. So I think one thing that is important is the support. Second is that ability to relearn. It's everywhere, and ability to accept to failures, ability to accept the situation, whichever we are into. We just, you listen to people who have accepted such situations. When I was in the hospital, I still remember people after my amputation, they would just come and feel really bad about me. And I used to feel, "Arey, kya hai? Kuch hai nahi. I'm on painkillers. I don't know what's happening down below my waist." People would just come and feel pity कि क्या हो गया बेचारी, इतनी अच्छी लड़की थी, क्या हो गया. But then I'm like, nothing matters, I think. Then within few days I accepted कि a lot of worse could have happened, and I'm happy to be alive. Let me take the advantage of the situation that I'm alive and seek where life can take me. I was not knowing that, मुझे ये करना है. All I had after coming back from hospital was, मुझे बाहर जाना है. I have to just enjoy. Within few days I was taking trips. Within 2 years I was taking solo trips. Within few years I was playing for the country. So I kept on changing, and so one thing that I accepted in hospital was, it has happened, such incident has happened, and as ma'am is here, science and technology is taking us so ahead, and wherever I am is because of the science. So I'm wearing a prosthetic which has a gait pattern just like everybody else. This is a microprocessor country-old prosthetic that I'm wearing, and we have innovated so that people who have such kind of disabilities can just live the normal life. And I'm sure with more and more people coming out, even our country will become more and more accessible, and we'll have more and more people doing innovations in their own different field.
Sure. Thank you, Mansi. Very heartening, and I totally agree. There's a lot of innovations that disability and some of these challenging situations can drive. And the best innovations come from challenging situations. But I think one point that you really made that stuck to me, and I'd love to get others' opinions, is the question about life, right? You wanted to get out. You're after the injury, your first thing was get out. And I know, Dr. Thomas, you also talked about when you were growing up in the backwaters of Kerala, being with nature and being out really motivated you. So maybe can you talk about our connect with nature? And, because we mentioned Greta Thunberg as well, and, we sadly are losing these open spaces, which are very, very precious for us. We have to save our environment, and I'm very happy to see many of the students who wrote their essay competition was about women they appreciated who are working for the environment and for nature. So maybe could you talk a little bit about what is your connect with life that is the spring of inspiration and for you?
Definitely the life comes from the environment wherein which you are living. So if it is with full of greenery and beautifulness, definitely your mind is mind gets that concentration, what we call yoga, or without doing just a walk on that surface of the earth with beautiful surroundings will give you all what is required for your mind. It regenerates you, it gives the total energy to you, and you are there as a positive person to do good things. That's what the surrounding makes us, if it is beautiful.
You've never seen anyone sitting in a garden in a bad mood. Because it's green, you're getting natural sunlight. I think one of the things that I've been actually writing about recently also is the sort of inversely proportionate effect of the environment on women, of the environmental crisis on women. And it is truly mind-blowing how, this is stuff that's not even examined. It's not even stuff that data is collected on, is how, women have to walk longer distances now to collect water because of water shortage in various villages. And as far as my personal connect is concerned, I've been living with my mother since I was born. And she has been asking me to move out of the house for about 4 years now. And every single time I have been like, I am not going anywhere because a tree comes straight into my window. And that truly, it brings in mosquitoes, which are a welcome sort of invasion, to be honest. But I made my writing desk around that area. And so that's
Does it bring in Chipkali as well?
Oh yeah, I've got names for them, Ramesh and Suresh and all that stuff. So that's kind of my connect with nature.
No, thank you so much for sharing these insights. I've got the cue that I think we should open it up. We have got amazing audience here. So I'll open the panel for questions from the audiences. Please raise your hand and we'll bring the mics to you.
Across in your life and you thought of almost all giving up and you proceeded with your career aspiration. Toughest time. How did you overcome the most challenging time in your life?
Who is the question for?
All three. Anyone can answer.
So what was the question? I have not faced any.
My answer too is that yet to face the challenge.
Yeah, even I think I took what is my biggest tragedy. I lost my mother at 3, and I've sort of lived in boarding school for a lot, and I was roaming around a lot. But I think I turned that ability into the ability to fit in anywhere, and to be a goof, and to be silly, and to be stupid. And someone's paying me for it now.
Hey, that's the best kind of job to have. Okay.
Any other question?
Oh, that's a very enlightened audience, Aditi Devan. Yeah. There's one question.
Hi, good evening. My name is Sirisha. I'd like to ask who has been your, for all three of you, who has been an inspiration in your life, in general, or your mentor or your inspiration?
Me. I really do. I love me so much. It's embarrassing. don't encourage this. But it's, you know, because I think also I was one of the first in my field to do this, and there were lots of things that happened where I didn't know where to turn or who to ask. And, you know, of course I also went through that period, but I was looking for mentors. I was looking for someone, and I realized maybe on some level I was looking for someone to answer my questions or to solve my problems. But then you realize you listen to everybody, but you do exactly what you want to do. And so I am just inspiring as hell to myself. It's ridiculous.
For me, till joining to the scientific world, it was my mother who has been inspiring us to learn. Like, we are 5 children, and we are 6 children, out of which 5 girls and 1 boy. And my parents gave us the equal education for all of us. I come from Kerala, so a lot of importance for education is there. And my mother has been a backbone in making all of us work, because she was a qualified teacher but who couldn't work. And then my father had fallen sick while we were in school days. He had a paralytic stroke, and my mother at that point of in her life, she felt why she didn't go for work. So she ensured that all the children for her, girl or boy, will be a working woman and then earn for them. That's the thing. And when I landed in DRDO for scientific work, I was fortunate to join a lab wherein which Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam was the director, and I was really happy that I got such an inspirational model. He was a person who was open to every scientist, from junior scientist to senior scientist. He used to come to us, talk to us, and make us feel that we are real scientists. That is where it made the difference. He was always inspiring for all of us, a role model for the whole country. You all know when he was as president, how much the children loves him, and that's the way he was with us. So he has been a great model, for a role model for all of us.
Thank you.
For me, there have been many role models at different stages of my life, during growing up years, during my teenage years, and like I used to follow lawn tennis, and I used to watch each and every match on TV when I was, I'll say 8, 9, 10, because my father was a big fan. So Steffi Graf. I'm sure everybody must have got inspiration from her. Then I mean, there's so many, I can't just name one person, but I'll say my father and my mother, I look up to them. I see the amount of work they do even at this in their late 60s. I've seen them work in their every stage of life, and the way they work, while my father was also a scientist at BARC. So I've seen him even in his late 50s studying for his interviews and for clearing his like interviews. Now he has turned into an author, and he has published 5 books in Gujarati on poetry, and he writes in the Chand. I don't know which Chand, I'm sorry. So you know, I mean, he has kept on himself, he's always kept himself busy. He in 2014 he had got Sahitya Academy, Maharashtra State Sahitya Academy Award for one of his book named Manorath. So I see him working hard. And then there was one time when he was developing one earthquake alarm after 2001 earthquake, and this he was doing out of his own interest, not to do anything, just to work on the current system which is happening. And this was not his scientific project, it was his personal project. So amount of work that I see in my own house, I get really inspired. Right now I'm getting inspired by the 2 girls who were on stage, who had such great stage persona, and I want to learn all those things.
Thank you, Mansi. So I think we'll close the panel. I get the message. I think we kind of, just to wrap up, I think be yourself. Aditi, your message to the kids, be yourself, laugh out loud, love yourself. Dr. Thomas, you talked about determination, and I think as a very key ingredient for success and pursuing excellence. And of course, Mansi, you talked about there's no challenge we cannot overcome. So thank you so much for such a wonderful panel discussion. I thank the audience for being here, and I invite Lakshmi to take over from here. Thank you, Lakshmi.
Thank you.